All right, so we are in this series called Letting Go. And our first week, we talked about letting go of what? Stuff. Okay, letting go of stuff. I thought that was a really good message. We went home and cleaned up a little bit and tidied up. Then our last week, Pastor Anna shared about letting go of distractions. There's all kinds of distractions around us, aren't there? And so it's good to remind ourselves that of that, and then to focus in on what's most important in life, right? There are some things that are good, but there's things that are even better as well. And this morning, we're talking about letting go of control. Letting go of control. I really have just kind of one point, and I mean, this could kind of be the point anyway, let go of control. But I've got some good information I want to share with you, and we'll get to really the climax of it, but it should be easy to follow along and easy for you to remember, even though it may not be easy to do, right? Letting go of control. I don't know how many of you are like me and struggle with this issue. Some messages preachers will preach to themselves, and I am preaching to myself this morning, just so you know. Well, I know that, we're about a month after Christmas, but I'm still thinking about Mary. And there's just a good example of Mary here with letting go of control. And so I want to share a little bit from Mary's story. It's the Christmas story, but you can turn to Luke chapter 1. We'll start in verse 26. I'll give you a second to get there. Otherwise, it's on the screen maybe. Oh, all right. Luke 1, verse 26. Now, in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee, to a virgin named Mary. She was engaged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of King David. Gabriel appeared to her and said, "Greetings, favored woman. The Lord is with you." Remember, Christmas, Emmanuel, God is with us. All right, verse 29. Confused and disturbed, Mary tried to think what the angel could mean. That phrase is sticking out to me, confused and disturbed, right? I'm sure she's wondering, why is this happening to me? This angel is appearing. I'm just confused. And she says that, or the angel is interrupting her life. This is even before he really says what the plan is. She's got to be wondering, what is going on? She doesn't understand. And she, like some of us have already said, want to fix things. She wants to figure things out. So let's read on, verse 30. "Don't be afraid, Mary," the angel told her, "for you have found favor with God. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will name him Jesus. He will be very great and will be called the Son of the Most High." Mary asked the angel, "But how can this happen? I am a virgin." The angel replied, "The Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the baby to be born will be holy, and he will be called the Son of God." Verse 38, Mary responded, "I am the Lord's servant. May everything you have said about me come true." Now again, she's young. A teenager. A young teenager at this point, and she is engaged, but the angel is saying, hold on your plan. We've got something else going on. And so, maybe she was a control freak. Maybe she struggled with that. I mean, she turned pretty easily and said, let it be done. But I have to wonder, at least for me, maybe I'm reading into it, of like, well, that doesn't fit my plan, like what? This is not what I thought was going to happen with my life. And then I came across the ESV version, says it pretty good, verse 38. Mary said, "Behold, the maidservant of the Lord, let it be to me according to your word." She said, "Let it be." Got any Beatles fans here this morning? Let it be, let it be. Powerful words. As well as I'm preaching to myself, maybe you think, well, okay, that's good, but I know somebody else that needs to hear it. Maybe my spouse, maybe a brother, sister, somebody else. I'm not controlling. I'm just thoroughly organized. Maybe you have been told that you're wound so tightly that you make coffee nervous. That you are controlling, okay? Whether it's with your kids, like maybe you like to tell them what they're going to wear, how they're going to do their hair, the score that they are going to have on their ACT, where they're going to go to school, who they're going to marry, and what degree they're going to have in college. That's a little bit controlling. Some of that's appropriate at kids' young age, but maybe you have a spouse that just needs help. He or she needs to be told how to get around town. What's the best way, the quickest route? Maybe your spouse needs your help, needs your help in what to say and what not to say. And you finish each other's sentences as well. Maybe there's the issue of controlling image. Maybe you don't care so much about the activities that are going on. Maybe something that you struggle with is controlling your image, what people think. We all, to some degree, put our best foot forward, but younger people, they deal with social media, Instagram and stuff. They take 23 pictures of all the same thing just so they have the perfect look or the perfect expression, or the picture is perfect because they want to appear perfect online. But even those of us that are past that, I don't care about online, or I'm barely on Facebook even, really. Social media, what's that? I like to be social in real life. Still, we struggle with that image or that controlling our image. We think, what would people think? What would people say? And we kind of sometimes do, to some degree, put up a wall, a facade. It's a fake. It's a veneer finish. It's false. And then we wonder, I'm not going to allow people to come into my life or see behind that wall or that curtain because I don't know what they're really going to think. So I try to control who has access to the real me. We do that, right? We may, as a family, sit in this perfect, field, and this image and this scene is so awesome, and you got everybody all lined up or posed perfectly, and they snap the picture, and it looks lovely just sitting on your wall. But the people in the picture could tell you if mom and dad were angry, or if there was fighting or bickering and arguing, and the kids were squirming, and they just happened to sit there at the right time. They know what's going on, because life is more than just image, but still we try to control that image. Now let me tell you that the more we try to control, the more we're afraid of losing control. And I've really found this out in my life the last 6 months or so. I try to control things, but then when I find that there's not an ability to control, that causes fear. And then you get more afraid, and then you try to control more. Does that make sense? It's a cycle. We try to control, and when we can't, we become afraid. And then when we're afraid of losing control, we try to control more. Desire to control is rooted in lack of faith. So that's really where we're coming down to. I'm starting to focus in on this message for you guys, is that desire to control is rooted in lack of faith. So think about that. If I'm trying to control a situation or a person or an image, I'm not really letting God have control, and I'm not letting my faith be exercised in that. So letting go of control takes faith. And we know, as people of faith, the more faith we have and we let God operate and we let him do things in faith, we will see the faithfulness of God, right? Have you seen that in your life? Maybe in the area of giving, that you have come to a point of, man, I could really use 100% of my paycheck, but I'll give 10%. I'm operating in faith to give, and then when I'm blessed in another way, like all my needs are met with my 90%, that's the faithfulness of God. Amen? So that's true in all areas of our lives, including this control. When you overestimate your ability to control, you underestimate the power of God. So if you are like me, struggle with control, you want to control things, you overestimate your ability to control, and you really limit the ability of God to move in your life. We underestimate the power of God. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live like that. I want to live full of the power of God. I want God's power and presence to be so saturated in my life and see evidence of that more and more. I don't need control. I need to give it up. So here's today's one big idea. If you're taking notes, you can write this down. You don't always have the power to control, the power to control, but you always have the power to surrender. Okay? You don't always have the power to control, but you always have the power to surrender. So again, I'm preaching to myself. Mary, we try to, in our circles, we try to keep her real. She's human, right? But other folks, other Christians may try to glorify her, or romanticize her and say, well, it was easy for Mary. She's the mother of Jesus, and she was perfect. She wasn't perfect, okay? She was a human teenage girl, right? We've established that. And again, I just try to think about where she's coming from. At 14, 15, maybe 16, I'm sure she had lots of hopes and dreams for her future. I'm sure that she had pressures. I'm sure that she had fears, just like anybody else, any other girl. And when she lived at the time that she did, I'm sure there was pressure to marry well, even though it really wasn't even up to her, right? For today, most parts, you got lots of options. If you're single and ready to mingle, there's lots of options. There's apps and sites and places you can go and people you can meet to create that meaningful future. But many choices for Mary were limited, couldn't travel. There was no eHarmony or Christian Mingle or whatever is out there, But I'm sure for her, there were some non-negotiables. So just imagine, a little daydream with me a little bit, that there were important things, that this man that she would want to be with, and Joseph, was in her life. So I don't think she knew him that well. She wanted him to be strong. Right? That's every girl's and wife, fiance's dream. I want a strong man, right? Somebody that's handsome, good looking, and charming, right? Somebody that has a nice car. Okay, we're talking about us, not her anymore. A good job, a bright future, somebody that has strong hands and a soft heart. A man that's close to mom, but not a mama's boy, right? Somebody that's bold yet humble, decisive yet flexible, who's well-groomed but not soft, not a sissy, right? Somebody that's fit but not obsessed with themselves, like somebody that has big goals and dreams for themselves, and somebody that's going to take care of her and her family, a feeling of safety, right? That's what most girls want in a spouse, in a husband. And I'm sure for Mary, and just like Christian ladies today, you want somebody who's going to love God, be the spiritual leader, and raise your children in the fear and wisdom of God. Just normal stuff, right? That's Mary. She just expected the normal. She had normal dreams for a teenage girl. However she dreamed about her future and, reading into it or embellishing a little bit there, I'm sure that we could say really basically, because this was a prearranged marriage, they learned to love their spouses. So I'm sure that was important to her, that she was determined to love her husband, that she was just excited to have a nice marriage ceremony and to have some kids that they could pass on their faith to. So Mary had hopes and dreams, but the angel comes and says, "You're going to be with child." And what was her response again? She was disturbed and confused. She didn't know what to expect. That was completely the opposite of what she wanted. She wanted to get married first and then have kids. What will people think when they hear about what's going on? I'm sure that people would have put connections together and started accusations. And we find ourselves in that with life as well, right? That we're in a place that's unexpected, maybe completely the opposite of the way that we wanted our lives to go. Maybe you had all the kids that you wanted, but then surprise, you get a caboose, a bonus kid. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're having a hard time and you thought, man, I thought I'd have a house full by now. Life takes its turns and twists. There's minor things that happen in life. There's major things. Maybe there's a job loss. Maybe the company downsizes and you haven't slept because of that. And so there's pressure to come up with making ends meet. Maybe there's a health challenge, this diagnosis you've had or your family members had, and it's stressing you out. Life isn't always easy, and we have things that come up. But like Mary, we don't know the end of our story. We know the end of Mary's story, but again, think about it in that moment when she gets this news and is just mind blown. She doesn't know the end of her story. She didn't have the power to control, but she had the power to surrender, and that's what she did, and that's what we see there. That Mary made a choice. She chose not her plans, but God's purpose. She made a choice to give up her dreams for God's destiny. She made a choice to give up her desire for control in exchange for God's calling. God's plan, God's purpose is so much greater, and it doesn't always look like how we think it's going to look like, right? Some of you have some more miles on the tires. You've seen how, wow, that crick in the road, I didn't expect it, but I'm glad that it happened now looking in the rearview mirror. So Mary, she didn't understand the plan, but she chose to trust that God had a purpose. She said, "Let it be unto me. Let it be." You know, there's a difference between let it be and let me be, right? You could come to this situation where there's a detour in your life and you're like, nope, God, let me be. I don't want to have anything to do with it, right? Let me be. Leave me alone. But that's not Mary's response. It was, let it be. Let your plan be in my life. I'll give up control for you. So what are you trying to control that's outside of your control? What do you need to surrender this morning? You know, there's no such thing as partial surrender. There's no conditions, there's no strings, there's no clauses. Somebody can't say, well, I'm 87% committed to Christ. You know, there's no partial surrender. Well, I'll let him save my soul, but I've still got some pet sins that I'm not willing to give up. That's not a surrendered life. You're not giving Jesus total control of your life. You might come to him when you need peace, when you're hurting, and say, God, give me that peace, but leave my kids alone. I'm going to control them. I've got a plan for them. They're my kids. Maybe you could come to God and say, well, forgive what I've done in my past. I want you to forgive me my past, but I've got a future and I've got a plan, and I'm going to go for it over here. I don't need you in my future. We don't say those things because that's not a surrendered life. That's not 100% surrendered. Folks, you're either surrendered to Jesus or you're not. That's the way it is. You know, sometimes I even think about even raising kids. They're older now. You know, when they were younger, they just kind of fell in place with us. They went to church with us and stuff, and now they've got choices, and thankfully they haven't, rebelled too hard and stuff. But yeah, but I'm thinking, I wonder if sometimes my kids are thinking, well, that's good for you because you're a preacher, you're the pastor. Like, no, this is for all of us. Every family member in the family of God needs to be surrendered. This is for all of us, not just ministers or missionaries. You're either surrendered or you're not. Surrender is complete. I even thought about if you're at war or in a scenario where you're doing a little battle, you raise the white flag, that means I surrender, right? And so you're taken into custody. You're like, I surrender, but I still have my gun, and I'm going to shoot you then. No, it's fooled you. That's not cool. Surrender is complete. Surrender is complete. So with God, we shouldn't say, well, I'll trust you with some things, but not all things. So maybe there's some control issue with something that nobody else knows about. What can you give over to the Lord today? Again, our desire to control is rooted in a lack of faith. I need this word. I hope you do too. I hope you're with me. Desire to control is rooted in lack of faith. We don't want to operate in our own strength. We don't want to see things happen that we can plan, that we can make happen. Because what really is awesome is when we let go of control and let God do what he wants to do. It's a way better plan anyway. Way better than I could have come up with in all my time of planning for things. Let's have faith and let God control. When we overestimate our ability to control, we underestimate the power of God. God has so much power and so much ability to do things in our lives. Why do we worry? Why do we overestimate our own ability to control? You don't have power to control. I'm telling myself a lot this lately. I don't have the power to control, but I have the choice to surrender every time. Every time. I can't control everything, but I can control how I respond. And you know what's frustrating is that everything in our culture says the opposite of that. You want that raise? You go for it. You want that job? You apply and you go for it. You impress everybody. You want something done? You make it happen. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself, right? There's this continuing theme of all of that. You are in charge of your own destiny. And Jesus said the opposite. He said, those of you who cling to your life, those that want to control and hold on to it, you're going to find you're actually losing your life. But what did he say? If you give up your life for me, you will find it. We're all in this. That's all of us. That's every disciple, not just those that follow Jesus in the flesh. We need to let go of our life. So to fully follow Jesus is to surrender control, to have this Beatles song in our head, let it be, let it be. But you know, I do have some bad news for you, that this surrendered theme is not just a one-time event. Surrender isn't one time, it's a daily choice. We have to constantly surrender. We have to constantly be on guard about grabbing control, about doing things for ourselves, and surrendering and letting God have control in our lives. Imagine Mary, all through her life, beginning with being pregnant. Every time she chose surrender, she saw the faithfulness of God. So think with me, if you will, a little bit through her life. When she was pregnant, there was a confirmation via her cousin. God moved. When she was on the run with Joseph and the baby, had to go to Egypt, God provided by sending 3 wise men that had gold, frankincense, and myrrh, right? God provided. When Jesus was missing, when they visited Jerusalem, the temple, and they went back, and where's Jesus? Oh, he's the Son of God. We know he's in the temple. That's God verifying he is his son. When Jesus was in the garden, you know, he even followed through this as well. He did what he asks us to do. He said the exact same phrase that Mary said in Luke 1. Let it be. Not my will, but yours. Even when he was praying, Lord, if there's any other way to get out of this, I can do this, you know? I could send 10,000 angels and get out of here, right? But let it be, is what Jesus, he surrendered. He surrendered, and we see the awesome power of God that he was raised after 3 days. And then even when he was on the cross, he said, not my will, but yours be done. I commit my spirit into your hands. And Mary, when he was on the cross, this human mother for 33 years raising this boy, I'm sure she was protective and that she could have tried to control that, knowing that he was the Son of God. He was set apart. He was special. So I'm sure that she treated him special. And I'm sure that he probably got teased about it or treated poorly by peers and other little kids. But she endured, and Jesus endured. And through that cross, like I said, 3 days later, we got to see the miraculous provision of faithfulness of God. I'm going to ask Eli to come and play as we quiet ourselves even more and start to think about this surrender. The question to you is, what is it in your life that you need to surrender? Something that you have control of, something that you're afraid of letting go this minute because you just think, I can't. I have to control this. I have to have this. What is that you need to surrender? I want you to pray over that, because I propose to you that that's more of a burden than you really realize. Oh, no, Pastor Rob, I've got this. I'm just controlling. I'm just making things happen. But if you let go and let God, you wouldn't have to worry, stress, pull strings, make things happen. If you let that burden go, of course, He will give you peace. He will give us provision, and you'll see things happen that you don't even have any idea how it could happen. I want to remind you that the Lord is with you, even in this situation. Our God is Emmanuel. He is with us. Control is just an illusion. We think we have control, but we never have it. So let go of what you cannot change and trust God. And remember that God can do more with your surrender than what you can control. You think you can control so much, but God can do so much more than you can. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this challenging word I believe so many of us need to hear, because it is so easy to operate in our own strength, to go to our jobs or raise our kids or even do ministry and say, oh, I got this, I can do this. This is in my wheelhouse. And it's good that you give us strengths and abilities and skills. But God, I just wonder what we could do if we just let go of control and let you have your way in us. So for that big issue that somebody here might be holding on to, something that they're trying to control and manipulate or change things, Lord, I pray that you would give them the ability to let that thing go. May they literally open their hands and say, I'm letting go. I'm surrendering 100%, and I'm going to let you have your way in this. God, I pray for those that might be struggling with a sin or maybe a bad habit, maybe something that just doesn't quite glorify you. God, help us to remember that we may not have the power to control the people around us, but we have the power to surrender. We have the power to hold our tongue, to keep our cool. We have that power within us because you are in us. Jesus, you want to reproduce yourself. You want to display your power through us. So God, don't let us fall into temptation of jumping to our natural responses, our reflex actions, but let us have control, not in a way that we are in control of people or situations. May we be self-controlled in exercising that surrender. So I pray that for myself and for others, God. You should help us to have that surrender. Show strength through surrender.